Ralph Mitchell gasped for breath as his cryopod hissed open, cold mist spilling out like an army of death escaping hell. His vision swam, heart pounding like a sledgehammer as he tumbled from the pod, alarms blaring throughout the cavernous cryo bay. "Captain Mitchell, please remain calm. You have been in cryogenic stasis for 537,412 years. The soothing synthetic voice of Ares, the ship AI, echoed. "What? No, that's impossible," Ralph rasped, his voice raw. The last memories came crashing. The UES Olympus, humanity's last desperate gambit. 10,000 souls fleeing a doomed Earth, bound for a distant star. But the ship never reached its destination. Struggling to stand on atrophied legs, Ralph staggered to a view screen. The once gleaming command deck was dark, thick with stale, recycled air. Beyond the reinforced viewport stretched an endless expanse of unfamiliar stars. "Ares, status report now," he barked. Navigation system suffered a critical malfunction 27 years into the journey. Engines shut down to conserve power. We have been drifting for over 500,000 years. Ralph felt his blood run cold. "Earth?" "Destroyed by an asteroid impact 6 months after the Olympus launched. I'm sorry, Captain," Ares intoned solemnly. Grief hit like a gut punch. Everyone he knew, loved, gone. Wiped away by the cruel hand of fate while he slept, unable to save them. Frantically, he pulled up the ship manifest. Of the 10,000 hopeful colonists, only 1,000 life signs registered. The rest had perished in their pods over the long, lonely millennia. "We're lost, aren't we?" a ragged voice asked. Ralph turned to see a battered and bruised blue woman struggling to stand. "A lot of us." The Benzite scientist, one of the few non-humans aboard, he helped her to a console chair. "Looks that way, Doc," Ralph sighed heavily. "No home to go back to and no idea what's waiting for us out here." A proximity alert flashed across the screen. Ares magnified the visual. A massive alien armada, numbering in the thousands, bore down on the Olympus like a swarm of locusts. Menacing barbed ships, sleek and deadly, each one dwarfing the battered human vessel. "Attention, human refugees. This is Emperor Zorgax of the mighty Zorath Empire. Your species vanished long ago. Now, you will surrender to me, or be eradicated like the relics you are." Ralph shared a look with Ilara. Over 500,000 years, and the first aliens they meet wanted to finish what the asteroid started. 1,000 lost souls against a galaxy that wanted them dead. He squared his shoulders, a dangerous glint in his eyes. "Looks like these Zorath pricks wanted a fight. Time to show them what relics humanity could be." Ralph punched up the tactical display and felt his stomach drop. The Zorath fleet outnumbered them 100 to 1, each ship bristling with enough firepower to atomize the Olympus. Ilara studied the readouts, her face grim. "We can't fight that." "I know, but maybe we don't have to." Ralph tapped his chin. "Ares, what's the status of the quantum displacement drive?" "The drive is operational, though untested. I must warn you, a blind jump could send us anywhere," the AI cautioned. "Can't be worse than here. Spin it up and plot a short jump to the nearest system," Ralph ordered. He turned to Ilara. "Get everyone to the escape pods, just in case." Ares chimed in. "Captain, I have been monitoring the Zorath fleet and analyzing their technology. I believe I have found a vulnerability in their shield systems that we could exploit." Ralph's eyes widened. "How? We're 500,000 years behind them." "True, but their technology has stagnated. They have grown complacent in their superiority. To take advantage of this weakness, the Olympus would require significant upgrades." The ship shuddered as the first salvo from the Zorath slammed into their weakening shields. Alarms blared and sparks cascaded from overloaded consoles. Ralph gritted his teeth. "Ares, get us out of here!" The quantum drive hummed to life, tearing a rift in the fabric of space-time. The Olympus slipped through just as a final barrage reduced their rear shields to 5%. The ship emerged in a binary star system, the twin suns casting an eerie red glow across the planetary disk. "Damage report," Ralph called out. Shields are recharging, minor damage to the outer hull. Sir, I have located an abandoned Zorath outpost on the 4th planet. It contains components we could salvage to upgrade our weapons, Ares reported. Assemble a team. We need to move fast before they track us. Ralph punched the intercom. This is the captain. I need 50 able-bodied volunteers for a critical mission. Report to the shuttle bay in 10. The first to arrive was Marcus Reeves, Ralph's oldest friend. The wiry lieutenant snapped a salute. Ready to kick some alien ass, sir? Ralph clasped his shoulder. Just like old times, mount up, people. We're Oscar Mike in 2. The team boarded the shuttle, engaging its cloaking device. As they descended through the planet's turbulent atmosphere, a sense of unease settled over Ralph. Something felt off. The shuttle touched down a click from the outpost. Ralph motioned for the team to fan out, scanning for threats. The landscape was barren, wind-whipped sand obscuring visuals. Suddenly, a hail of plasma fire erupted from a concealed bunker. Soldiers fell, screaming, as the superheated bolts burned through their EVA suits. A Zorath patrol burst from the facility, led by a towering alien in ornate armor. Take cover, Ralph roared, diving behind a rocky outcropping. He blind-fired his rifle, downing 2 Zorath. Well, what do we have here? The last remnants of a forgotten species scurrying like rats. The leader sneered. I am Commander Zax, and you will pay for your insolence. Marcus popped up, loosing a salvo of grenades. The explosion sent Zorath tumbling, but Zax shrugged off the blasts. He leveled his cannon. The world slowed. Ralph watched in horror as a plasma bolt caught Marcus square in the chest, burning a fist-sized hole clean through him. His friend crumpled, eyes glassy. Fall back! Get to the shuttle! Ralph screamed, laying down covering fire. He dragged Marcus's limp form up the ramp as the team piled in. Plasma rounds pounded the hull as they rocketed back to the Olympus. Ralph cradled Marcus's head, hot tears streaking his face. Stay with me. That's an order. But it was too late. The light faded from his friend's eyes as the shuttle docked. Ralph slumped against the wall, grief and rage warring in his heart. These Zorath bastards had taken everything from him, his home, his family, and now his best friend. He would make them pay no matter the cost. Ralph strode onto the bridge, his face a mask of grim determination. Ares, tell me everything you know about the Zorath. It's time we took the fight to them. The Olympus's medical bay was a hive of activity, as Ralph and Ilara watched over Marcus's unconscious form. The steady beeping of life support machines filled the sterile room, a constant reminder of the sacrifices made. Ares, what did we learn from the data? Ralph's voice was strained as he pored over the holographic displays. The outpost is not just a military base, Captain. It houses a research facility dedicated to studying an artifact known as the Nexus. The AI projected an image of a colossal crystalline structure, its facets pulsing with an otherworldly light. Ilara's eyes widened. The Nexus? I thought that was just a myth. It's very real, Dr. Vass, and if the data is correct, it could be the key to the Zorath's power. Ares highlighted sections of the complex. The Nexus is believed to contain technology far beyond anything we've encountered. Ralph straightened, a plan forming. Then that's our target. If we can capture the Nexus, we might stand a chance. He turned to Ilara. Assemble a strike team. 20 of our best, marksmen, engineers, even those with psionic abilities. We'll need every edge. The Benzite nodded, determination etched on her face. What about infiltration? The outpost will be heavily guarded. Leave that to me. Ralph's face was grim. We're going to hijack a Zorath supply ship and go in disguised as their own soldiers. Hours later, the strike team assembled in the hangar bay, clad in stolen Zorath armor. Ralph, Ilara, and a recovering Marcus stood at the head of the group. Listen up. Our mission is simple. Get in, secure the Nexus, and get out. Expect heavy resistance. Ralph's voice was hard. Let's show these bastards what humanity is made of. The supply ship docked with the outpost, and the team disembarked, blending in with the Zorath personnel. They moved swiftly through the corridors, neutralizing patrols with ruthless efficiency. But as they neared the research sector, all hell broke loose. Alarms blared as elite Zorath warriors swarmed their position, plasma fire scorching the walls. The humans fought back with desperate ferocity, augmented by their unique skills. A psionic blast from Ilara sent a group of soldiers flying, while Marcus, still weakened, provided covering fire. At last, they breached the Nexus chamber, a cavernous room dominated by the glowing artifact. And there, waiting for them, was Commander Zax. "Foolish primates," the alien snarled. "You only delay the inevitable." Ralph charged forward, engaging Zax in a brutal hand-to-hand battle. They traded blows, Ralph's human tenacity matched against Zax's alien strength. But Zax was too fast. His blade slipped past Ralph's guard, aimed at his heart. Time seemed to slow. Until Marcus leapt forward, throwing himself in front of his friend. The blade pierced his chest and he crumpled to the floor. "No!" Ralph's anguished cry echoed as he redoubled his assault, fury lending him strength. With a final desperate blow, he shattered Zax's sword and hurled the commander against the Nexus. The crystalline structure pulsed, and Zax vanished in a blaze of searing light. Ralph staggered back, scooping up the now dormant Nexus and cradling Marcus's limp form. "Fall back to the Olympus," he roared, tears streaming down his face. As the strike team fought their way back to the waiting ship, Ralph's mind raced. The Nexus was theirs, but at what cost? Marcus, his brother in all but blood, had paid the ultimate price. Back aboard the Olympus, Ralph handed the Nexus to Ilara, his face a mask of grief and rage. "Find out what this thing can do. We're going to need every scrap of knowledge if we're going to take down the Zorath." As Ilara and Ares began the painstaking process of integrating the Nexus into the ship's systems, Ralph stood on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. The Zorath had taken everything from him, his home, his family, his best friend. But now with the Nexus he finally had a chance to strike back. And he would make them pay for every life they had stolen. The Olympus would rise from the ashes of humanity's fall, a blazing phoenix ready to burn the Zorath Empire to the ground. In the Olympus's research lab, Ralph and Ilara worked tirelessly to integrate the Nexus into the ship's systems. Wires snaked from the crystalline artifact, pulsing with an eerie blue light. Suddenly a voice echoed in their minds, ancient and powerful. "I am the Nexus, created by the progenitors to guide the worthy." Ralph staggered back, his eyes wide. Ilara clutched her head, overwhelmed by the psychic presence. "The Zorath have grown corrupt, a blight upon the galaxy," the Nexus continued. "But you, the last of humanity, have shown resilience and courage in the face of annihilation." Images flooded their minds, towering alien figures, the progenitors, crafting the Nexus as a beacon of hope. Galaxies swirled and civilizations rose and fell as the Nexus watched, waiting for a species worthy of its power. "I will grant you the strength to stand against the Zorath," the Nexus declared. "Rise, guardians of humanity." Ralph gasped as energy surged through his body, his muscles rippling with newfound strength. Ilara's eyes glowed with psionic power, her mind expanding to encompass the ship. Across the Olympus, a select group of survivors underwent a startling transformation. Engineers, soldiers, and scientists alike were imbued with superhuman abilities, their bodies and minds enhanced by the Nexus's ancient technology. The Nexus pulsed, and a star map flickered to life above them. "Behold the location of the progenitor fleet. With these ships you can challenge the Zorath's dominion." Ralph nodded, his eyes hardened with determination. "Ares, set a course for the nebula. It's time we took the fight to them." The Olympus surged through the void, the newly empowered guardians preparing for battle. As they approached the swirling clouds of the nebula, the Nexus pulsed with warning. "The Zorath have found the fleet. They seek to claim it for themselves." On the view screen, a massive Zorath armada came into view, dwarfing even the mighty progenitor ships. At its heart, a gargantuan dreadnought bore the insignia of Emperor Zorgax himself. Ralph's hands clenched into fists. This ends today, Guardians, to your ships. We fight for the future of our species. The Olympus's hangar bay bustled with activity as the Guardians boarded sleek alien fighters, their bodies thrumming with power. Ralph climbed into his own craft, the controls responding to his touch like an extension of his own body. The two fleets clashed in a cataclysmic battle, energy beams and missiles crisscrossing the nebula's swirling depths. The Guardians fought with preternatural skill, their enhanced reflexes and strength turning the tide against the Zorath's superior numbers. At the heart of the chaos, Ralph's fighter wove through the destruction, his eyes locked on Zorgax's dreadnought. The Emperor's mocking laughter filled the comms as his ship's weapons pummeled the progenitor fleet. Ralph gritted his teeth, pouring all his rage and grief into his attacks. Plasma blasts hammered the dreadnought's shields, the advanced progenitor weaponry tearing through the Zorath's defenses. With a final desperate salvo, Ralph breached the dreadnought's bridge. Zorgax's roar of fury was cut short as the Emperor was sucked into the void, his body disintegrating in the nebula's churning gases. The Zorath fleet, leaderless and demoralized, fell into disarray. The Guardians pressed their advantage, the progenitor ship's superior technology overwhelming the enemy. As the last Zorath vessel exploded into a shower of molten debris, Ralph sagged back in his seat, exhaustion and grief washing over him. But there was no time to rest. The Guardians regrouped, the progenitor fleet assembling around the Olympus like an honor guard. Ralph's voice crackled over the comms, weary but resolute. We've won the battle, but the war is just beginning. The Zorath Empire spans countless worlds, and they'll stop at nothing to avenge their emperor. He took a deep breath, the weight of leadership settling on his shoulders. But we have the progenitor fleet, and we have each other. We'll take the fight to the heart of their empire and make them pay for every life they've taken. The Olympus and its new allies set course for Zorath space, ready to begin the long and bloody campaign to secure humanity's future in the stars. The progenitor fleet tore through the void, 1,000 ships strong, their hulls gleaming in the light of a dying star. At the helm of the armada stood the Olympus, its once battered frame now reforged by the power of the Nexus. Ralph stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the viewscreen as the Zorath homeworld loomed before them. The Guardians, each one a living weapon, prepared for the assault. Ilara, her psionic powers amplified by the Nexus, reached out with her mind, sensing the Zorath's desperate defenses. "They're afraid," she said, her voice steady. "They know this is the end." Ralph nodded, his face grim. The weight of the lives lost, the sacrifices made, hung heavy on his shoulders. Marcus, his brother-in-arms, had given everything for this moment, and now it was time to finish what they started. The fleet opened fire, their weapons tearing through the Zorath's orbital defenses like paper. But as they descended on the planet's surface, a wave of psionic energy slammed into the Guardians' minds, sending them reeling. "What the hell was that?" Ralph growled, clutching his head. Ares, the Olympus's AI, flickered to life. "The Zorath have activated a massive psionic amplifier. It's disrupting our connection to the Nexus." Ralph felt his enhanced strength wavering, his vision blurring. Around him, the Guardians struggled to maintain their powers. On the surface below, the Zorath forces rallied, their weapons finding new strength in the chaos. "We have to push through," Ralph snarled, forcing himself to stand. "We've come too far to fail now." The Guardians fought their way through the streets of the Zorath capital, their weapons flashing in the smoke-filled air. Ilara unleashed a psionic blast, sending a squad of Zorath soldiers flying. But for every enemy they felled, 2 more seemed to take their place. At the heart of the city, a towering spire rose into the sky, its surface pulsing with malevolent energy. "That's the source of the disruption," Ares reported. "The amplifier." Ralph gritted his teeth. "Then that's where we're going!" They fought their way into the spire, the walls shuddering with each blast of their weapons. At the top they found Commander Zax waiting for them, his eyes blazing with hatred. "You think you've won, human?" he sneered. "You think your little band of freaks can stand against the might of the Zorath Empire?" Ralph raised his rifle, his finger tightening on the trigger. We're not just fighting for ourselves, Zax. We're fighting for every species your kind has ever threatened, for every world you've ever destroyed. Zax laughed, a harsh grating sound. Then you will die for them too. He slammed his fist into the control panel, and the psionic amplifier surged to life, its energy tearing at the fabric of reality itself. Ralph felt his mind screaming, his body threatening to tear itself apart. But through the pain he heard the voice of the Nexus, whispering in his mind, "You are the guardian of your people, Ralph Mitchell. You are the light in the darkness. Let go, and embrace your destiny." Ralph closed his eyes, drawing on the last reserves of his strength. He felt the power of the Nexus flowing through him, a raging torrent of energy that dwarfed even the amplifier's might. With a roar of defiance, he charged at Zax, their bodies slamming together in a cataclysmic impact. They grappled across the control room, smashing through consoles and support beams. The amplifier shuddered and sparked, its power growing more unstable with each passing second. Ralph landed a crushing blow to Zax's jaw, sending the Zorath commander staggering. But Zax retaliated with a blast of psionic energy that sent Ralph flying, his body smashing through the reinforced walls. As he struggled to rise, Ralph saw the amplifier's core, a swirling vortex of pure psionic might, and in that moment he knew what he had to do. He turned to Ilara, his eyes meeting hers across the battlefield. In that glance, a lifetime of love and regret passed between them. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "but this is the only way." Ignoring her screams of protest, Ralph charged towards the amplifier, drawing on every last ounce of the Nexus's power. He felt his body disintegrating, his very essence unraveling in the maelstrom of energy. But as he reached the core, he let out a final defiant roar and unleashed the full might of the Nexus. The amplifier exploded in a blinding flash of light, its power consuming Zax and the last of the Zorath forces in an instant. When the smoke cleared, the Zorath capital lay in ruins, its once mighty spires reduced to rubble. Ilara stood amidst the debris, her face streaked with tears and ash. Around her, the surviving Guardians emerged from the wreckage, their powers fading as the Nexus energy dissipated. In the distance, the progenitor fleet hovered above the shattered remains of the Zorath homeworld, a silent testament to the cost of victory. Ilara looked out over the ruins, her heart heavy with grief and loss. Ralph was gone, sacrificed to save them all. But his legacy would live on, in the hearts and minds of every human who had fought and bled for their right to survive. She turned to the Guardians, her voice raw with emotion. "We have won the war, but the battle for our future has only just begun. We will rebuild, and we will remember those who gave their lives for our cause, and we will carry on, no matter the cost." As the Olympus and the progenitor fleet set course for the stars, Ilara felt the weight of her new responsibilities settling on her shoulders. The road ahead would be long and hard, but she knew that humanity would endure, as it always had. For in the face of destruction and despair there was always hope, burning bright against the darkness. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.